All right, hi everybody. I want to continue the series on the toolbox and how I'm going to do this for the next 3 weeks. I took the first 3 steps of AA, which are referred to as the basic steps of recovery. And fundamentally, I want to connect many of the slogans to those steps. I'm going to begin with step 1 today. And then I'll spend next week on 2 and 3. And then the last week, I'm going to put the slogans all together into a package. For those of you who need a copy of both the AA slogans and the Al-Anon and my slogans, you can pick them up on the website under Vince's Corner down at the bottom where it says additional resources, okay? They've been posted for you. You can download them. I want to kind of use that concept to kind of bring this idea across to you. So I wanted to start today by doing the reading from the language of letting go. And I picked a reading because I really like this one from January 12th, which is tomorrow, by the way. Finding balance. The goal of recovery is balance, the precious middle ground. Many of us have gone from one extreme to another. Years of taking care of everyone but ourselves, followed by a time refusing to focus on anyone's needs but our own. We have spent years refusing to identify, feel, and deal with our feelings, followed by a period of absolute obsession with every trace of emotional energy that passes through our body. We may succumb to powerlessness, helplessness, and victimization. Then we swing to the other extreme by aggressively yielding power over those around us. We can learn to give to others while taking responsibility for ourselves. We learn to take care of our feelings as well as our physical, mental, and spiritual needs. We can nurture the quiet confidence of owning our power as equals in our relationships with others. The goal of all recovery is balance, but sometimes we get there by going to extremes. There, I'll be gentle with myself, understanding that sometimes to reach the middle ground of balance, I need to explore the peaks and valleys. Sometimes the only way I can extradite myself from a valley is jump high enough to land on a peak and then slowly ease myself down. I want to do that reading today because it fits right into what I want to talk about today, are kind of the slogans connected with the first step of recovery. I really like this idea of the toolbox and have all these different slogans, and on the website I put close to 60 some of them. You can actually put them together so you have one for all different days. The beautiful part about it is they give us the simple, basic ways of looking at what I call the fundamentals and the basics of recovery. You know, one of the things I realize in my own life, when you first come into recovery, it feels a little complicated. And sometimes we get a tendency to go from one extreme to the other. I know very many times I've experienced this myself, and others, I see it in others very many times. Recently, I saw this in an individual who, after years and years of struggling, finally decided to put down a drink, but then within a week, she had instant recovery. She found it all in 1 week. You know, here we go again, one side to the other side. We have to come to that middle ground of balance. There's an analogy that I use. It's that concept of trying to control things in one way or another. So take a second. Visualize yourself sitting on top of a clock. The clock has a pendulum on it. You're sitting there holding on to the pendulum with your right hand and wondering why the clock isn't ticking. Then somebody tells you to let go. Here's how many of us let go. We let go with the right hand and catch it with the left hand, and the why it's still not ticking. Because the hardest part of recovery is totally letting go and allowing that pendulum to swing until it comes to a sense of balance. And one of the things we need in our life, and that first step is so important, it's the foundation step of everything. To admit that we're powerless over whether addiction or whatever behavior and emotion. Powerlessness is a gift, but also it's a gift that teaches us eventually how to surrender. It also teaches us to come to acceptance. So some of the slogans I put together for those of us who are working on that first step, and I don't know about you, but I think in my own life, I've learned to go back to the first 3 steps of the program almost on a regular basis, because I refer to them as the basics, the foundations. There are some very simple slogans that help me to interconnect with that first step. One of the most powerful parts of it is so many people have a tendency to want to get things done right away. As a kid, my father drilled me with this slogan. He used to say to me all the time, "Pacienza Wayon, Pacienza Wayon." Patience, my little boy, patience. Everything happens in God's time, not in our time. It will happen when it's supposed to happen, not when you decide it's going to happen. These are powerful slogans. They're simple ways of looking at that first step and to realize that everything comes with patience, with time, and remembering in time all things will pass. This too shall pass. It's a process we have to go through. Along with that goes the slogan, take it easy, relax, easy does it, don't try to do too much. The beautiful thing I've learned about recovery is it's a process, and that process takes time. It's almost like discovering parts of yourself a little bit at a time. And you heard the phrase, less is better. You discover things a little bit at a time. And that's an important slogan. Then things stay with you, they're part of you. My father was a farmer, used to say all the time, farmers pray for the slow, steady rain because it nurtures the crops. The cloudburst destroys them and drowns them. Recovery is the exact same way. It's almost like you have to have patience. You have to learn the easy does it. You have to learn to just take it one step at a time, one little area at a time, gradually and slowly. And I've learned in my life that I actually take one of those slogans every day. And one of the most important ones is one day at a time. And I hope and pray every day I will learn something new about myself every day. I told you this before. One of the best sponsors I ever had, a gentleman named Richard, who also was a counselor here at one time at Starting Point, God rest his soul. He used to tell me all the time that recovery is a little bit at a time, little by little by little by little. He used to say, if you learn that much each day, then you've made a little bit of progress. But he also told me that progress works another way. It's like taking 10 steps forward and 8 backwards. You make progress. So you have to be able to go through that process of discovering, losing, discovering, losing. It takes time. And I'm learning as I get older. Isn't it amazing how you have to get old first to learn this stuff? You know, it's amazing. It's almost like in the beginning, I want to get everything right away. I want this, I want that, I want the. They tell you, slow down, relax. Everything will happen when it's supposed to happen. Somebody said this to me the other day. Don't you wish you were 25 again? I said, no, thank you. Unless I knew everything I knew where I am today. Now, if I could be where I am today and be 25, then I might take it. But you know what? You can't go back. Because there's the other beautiful slogan that goes along with that. Whatever we've been through in our history, it's our teacher. We learn from our past. We grow from our past. And that's where those beautiful slogans, your experience will one day, notice they said, one day give you strength, and then eventually give you hope. But those 3 words don't happen overnight. Coming to an acceptance, and to me, 2 of the most spiritual words on the face of this earth. are acceptance and adjustment. And coming to acceptance is a lot of hard work. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process we have to go through. We have to learn, though, that if I really do want to continue the process of growing, I've got to keep an open mind. I've got to be open to new things and new directions, and realize there's no such thing as me getting it. You see, I have to learn. You're always in process. You're always growing. You're always experiencing. All these beautiful words are part of that first step of the program. They're giving me tools for my toolbox. They're telling me to keep an open mind. One of the great things I've learned in recovery is to listen and learn. You know, I think back a lot of years now to an AA program in Philadelphia called the 4021 Club. And I remember some of the old timers when a newcomer will come in, and especially old man Charlie, I'll never forget him. He'd come up to the person and say, "Come here, sit in this chair, be quiet, and listen. And in time, you will learn. Just be quiet and listen. Learn and listen." And you learn by sitting. Now, the Indians taught this all the time in my Indian meditation book. They always say that young people need to sit at the feet of the elders and listen to their experiences, to what they've gone through. Many of us in here are now considered the elders. I was going to say but elders. And the bottom line is, we've all been through so many different experiences. Give yourself a lot of credit. Those experiences are valuable. And yet those experiences need to be shared. What lessons have we learned? You know, working that first step was the hardest step in recovery. Surrendering is not easy. But surrendering usually comes in little bits. Back to that slogan, little bit at a time. Nobody just surrenders. I told you before, I don't see too many people walking into our parking lot, knocking on the door and saying, "I surrender." They don't do that. They usually come in kicking and screaming. They come in fighting. They come in feeling they don't really need this. All those little things that we do over and over again until we finally reach that state of humility. And I hate to even say this, but I have to. Sometimes I've got to go down to the bottom to learn how to come back up. Sometimes I got to get hurt. Sometimes I got to go through changes. You know, we're amazing as human beings. I always got amazed at this. And I look back and look at my own life. Why do we have to beat ourselves up, be hard on ourselves, let that ego control us until we get sick and tired of being sick and tired? You know, I find it amazing how we have to wear out. You know, it took me, and I don't mind saying it, 45 years of my life to finally come to a point of surrender. Even though during that time I was in 12-step programs. But see, I wasn't in. I stuck my toe in the water. I was afraid to put the rest of me into the water. Did you ever see people that go down to the beach and they spend 45 minutes getting into the water? They torture themselves. Well, that's me when it came to recovery. I went to a ton of meetings. I was too busy with my codependency, fixing everybody else, instead of doing my own work. Because I didn't need to do my own work. Because my stubbornness and my ego kept telling me I didn't need it. But only through trial, through error, through people kicking me through the door, through people that confronted me, did I finally give in and start the process of surrender. But I'll show you how I surrendered. I love telling this part of my story. You know, I had an individual, I was giving a talk, telling everybody else how to live their life. And a certain lady, after the talk, I was a priest at the time, and I was in a parish, came up to me after the lecture and actually gave me a letter she had written. And in the letter, she said, "Everything you said is wonderful and great. Why don't you practice what you preach?" That was my first angel. But I'm going to tell you a secret. I didn't like her at all. I thought she was arrogant. I thought she was weird. And she said to me in the letter, "I want to give you the phone number of a doctor friend of mine you need to go see because you need help." Well, excuse me. I'm going to be honest with you. I went to see that doctor so I could prove her wrong. Does this sound familiar? I went to that doctor to prove her wrong. That doctor turned my life around, saved my life, was a person that brought me deeper into recovery, to have to face an addiction I didn't want to face. I call it the last of my addictions I had to face, and that was my eating disorder. In fact, you come to starting point, right on the wall next to me right here, I have a plaque dedicated to that particular therapist. I'm grateful to him. God rest his soul, he's not with us anymore. But he taught me so much, started the process. But I went there because, but even when it came to even more than that, when I got married, my youngest daughter, we had to put her into treatment. I put her into a treatment facility in Chicago. And my wife and I went to do the family week. And I thought the family week was, we're there to support her. Well, that interesting therapist during that family week decided to concentrate on me. And once again, she dealt with my eating disorder. She was in recovery. She kicked my rear end and told me, "Get your rear end into a 12-step program. And for once, damn it, do your work." When I left that treatment place, came home, went to my first OA meeting, sat there and said what many of us said. I don't know if I really belong here or not. And yet I was scared. Surrendering was never easy. And I'm no different than anybody else. I had to battle and fight and surrender. But for the grace of God and this program and gratitude, I was able to start the process. And I'll say it to the day I die. The toughest step I ever had to work in this program was the first step, the foundation. To actually admit I'm powerless and to accept the reality of what's going on in my life. And then to have to make all these adjustments and changes to begin to develop relationships, to work in different directions. I had to learn that phrase, listen and learn. My father used to say, "O state zitta." In Italian, that means shut your mouth. Open up, listen, because your ears and your mouth can't work at the same time, he used to say. It took a while to be able to get into that. But I'm grateful that it took time. And I'm grateful for the journey. Today, I have a lot of gratitude for that. And I realize now that I need to continue to keep an open mind. I got to continue to take things a step at a time, do a little bit at a time, learn something new, develop in a new way. My meditation this morning, don't ask me why. God works in mysterious ways. Instead of reading the 11th of January, I read the 12th of January. Now, why did I read the 12th of January? Later on, I found out it was the 11th because I was supposed to read it today. There's that supposed to again. It's amazing because it fits into that thing about balance. And the amazing part about it is in my 12-step program, EDA, my Eating Disorders Anonymous program, we're reading from our big book. And guess what the chapter is on in that big book? It's on balance. Balance. I've been brainwashed with the word of balance. Everything in time comes to a balance. There's an interesting process in the growth of life. And so I'm learning over and over again to be able to realize the fact that I'm a person on a journey just like you are. Each one of us has to learn something new each day. And these slogans help us. And sometimes we got to learn things maybe a minute at a time, an hour at a time, a day at a time, a step at a time. All wonderful slogans. That's why I try to renew them every day. I try to connect with them every day. And I realize the importance is for me to keep an open mind, to be willing, and willingness is the key, to be willing, as I said last week, to change, to be willing to grow, be willing to new things and new directions. You know, somebody said this to me the other day. You know, they said, I'm getting so much out of something called Dharma recovery. We have a meeting here. Honestly, I don't know what it was. I asked that person to sit down and explain it to me. Sounds pretty good. I can learn a lot from that. No matter what comes up in different directions, I can learn new things, new areas, and connecting with other belief systems and things to that effect. There's so much to learn, so many things. And I learned this from that first step also. Be patient, take what you can use, leave the rest, be open to new things and new directions. And also remember, the only requirement for recovery is a desire. Is a desire. There's no such thing as a perfect way of doing it. There's no such thing as you've got it. There's no such thing as you're supposed to work this way or that way. We each have to find our own journey. And each of our journeys will lead us where we're supposed to go. We've got to be open to the journey and be open to new roads, new directions, new things. You know, it's amazing sometimes because, believe it or not, now, Loretta's going to kill me on this one, but that's all right. You know, I was in the doctor's office the other day, waiting for my turn to see my primary, and there was TV on. And they were talking about TikTok recovery. I got to hear this. Well, it's amazing how young people have taken what they call sobriety TikTok, where people actually come on. They share numbers with each other. They share stories with each other. They connect with each other, building recovery. I thought that was pretty neat. And so now we have another channel, another way. You know, here we come into the social stuff again. You know, so you begin to realize after a while, there's so many different ways. This morning, my receptionist told me she found another form of recovery called the network of recovery, where people of all different types of recovery come together and share stories and connection with each other. So what they're doing now is they're actually taking social media and beginning to bring the principles, the concepts, and the things of recovery into it. I think it's pretty neat. I'm going to be honest with you. Years ago, I would have shook my head and said, where the heck are we going with all this stuff? But now, I don't need the Excedrin anymore because I'm much more open to stuff now. I want to experience new things in new directions. And we've got to be able to realize that because I have to accept the fact that the younger generation has to find their journey and their way. I can share experience and strength. They have to be able to find the ways in which they can experience it. And that's where it tells me to have that willingness to be open, that willingness to change, that willingness to have an open mind, that willingness to discover new things, to work in new directions, and to get excited about it. It's okay, because you realize more and more the journey goes on. I mean, think about it for a minute. Go back to 1935. I wasn't around. Most of you weren't too, I'm sure. If there was somebody here, let me know afterwards. But two gentlemen, two very interesting gentlemen who had a ton of problems, got together and started a program called AA. Then 4 years later in 39, a bunch of crazy recovering drunks got together, hammered it out, and put together the 12 steps, the 12 traditions, the big book, the first edition. And all of a sudden, something started. And all of a sudden, as a result of that, here's how God works in this program. As a result of that, over the years, there's over 21, 22, 23 different types of 12-step programs today, all based around the spiritual principles of these steps. And I'm not interested in which way we get there, as long as we get there, as long as we experience it. And I've realized over and over again that this beautiful program, these beautiful principles, and the hardest thing in the world is this concept of acceptance, of patience, of taking it easy, doing a little bit at a time, the process, try this, try that, learn from here. People still ask me, I always say it, because I was a Catholic priest, they ask me if I'm still Catholic. And I say, sometimes. Sometimes I'm Jewish, sometimes I'm Buddhist, sometimes I'm Muslim, sometimes I'm a little bit of everything. Because I learned from this beautiful program, one of my favorite slogans, take what you can use and leave the rest. And to be open to new things and new directions. So step one is that first step of powerlessness. Isn't it amazing how many things in life we're powerless over? We talked about that last week. You can't fix anybody. If I can come to that acceptance, come to that peace, be open to new things and new directions. You know, sometimes I wish I could teach this philosophy and these principles, even to people in government and people in different churches and different places, and get away from the concept as my way is the right way, your way is the wrong way, this way is this way. Everything's that balance in the middle, the wonderful balance. And we all come to it. But, come on, we're all hardheads. Isn't it wonderful? As a result, then, we have to kind of go this way, go that way, go the other way, and finally come to where we have to face it. A friend of mine in recovery said this. Here's how recovery works. It's right in front of you, but you have to go down the street, around the block, go down the other neighborhood, go through this detour, come into another way, and eventually you come right back to the same spot you were in. It's right there. But only when you're ready does it work. Only when you're ready does the door open. A good slogan I learned a long time ago. If you truly, truly can surrender, then the doors will open up to you. The doors will open. But they will open when they're ready to open, not when you decide they're going to open. And that brings me back to the two dangerous things we have to watch out for. Control and fear. Am I doing it the right way? There is no right way. There is no wrong way. There's the way that works. The way you're on your journey. I can give suggestions to others. I can be open to others. And that's why I get so excited. Put up with me for a minute. About the big book of AA. It is the only book that has no author. Everything in it is suggested. There are no absolutes. The only requirement to join is a desire. It never says you have to get it. And that goes into all the different areas of our life. So that beautiful phrase, that slogan, my only requirement is a desire. Do the best I can do each day Check my ego at the door and realize the fact that I can learn from every human being on the face of this earth. We're all teachers and pupils every day of our life. One of the most famous quotes. Always remember, you are a teacher and a pupil every day. Balance. We need to be both. We teach by example, we teach by sharing, and we learn by listening. It's the combination of the two together that helps us on our journey. And so take some time to reflect on some of these very simple slogans. Live and let live. Be open to new things and new directions. This too shall pass. In time, everything passes. Everything moves on. Live life 1 hour, 1 minute, or 1 day at a time. Enjoy the moments. Because the moments we have now are the ones we'll have forever. Keep an open mind. Have the willingness to change, the willingness to grow. Be willing, surrender. Be open to new things. And surrendering is a gift of humility. Acceptance is so beautiful, it's so spiritual. In life, you're always making adjustments. Please, please don't ever be done. Please don't be done. You know, I've learned a long time ago. I said, I need to stay in recovery at least 20 years after I'm dead. Probably got some more to learn then too. So it's all part of it. It's a gift. But remember, fear is normal, but love conquers fear. Have patience. Take it easy. Easy does it. A little bit at a time. Less is better. Try to keep an open mind, keep learning, and keep growing. Now I'll take some more of the slogans that we've given in that list, and I'll work and connect them to the second and third step next week. And then we'll bring the whole package together in that fourth week. And so in prayer today, I'm going to ask God, the God of our understanding, to help us, to guide us, to be with us, to help us to achieve a sense of balance, to be open to new things and new directions, and to realize how special each one of us is, and to realize we're on a journey. And always remember, your journey and your story is the greatest story on the face of this earth because you are unique. It's all part of the process we go through. I mean, Dove knows what I'm talking about. We're all unique. It's all part of the process we go through. So let us pray. God, we come before you in prayer. We ask the God of our understanding. We ask our higher presence to guide us, be with us, and help us. Give us a push every once in a while, okay? To continue on the journey. Give us a push to be able to be open to new things and new directions. You are constantly trying to teach us. You sent us on a journey into this world. And the journey is something ongoing. And yet we have to learn, discover, and go through things. And so remember, our experiences, the things we go through, the hurt, the pain, even the struggle and the joy, all of it, they're all our teachable moments. Help us every day to be both a pupil and a teacher. Teach us not to be able to share, but humbly, just to be open to new things and new directions for the journey and the way you're teaching us. And so we come together and we pray and we ask you to bless us, to guide us, to walk with us as we walk the journey of life, the journey of discovery together. And we ask this every day. We ask it in your name. Amen.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.